and that is going to change, that the strongest bull market out there is a broad-based one. A market favoring 6 or 7 stocks, we're right, the bull market will strengthen out and gain rewarding smaller cap stocks than we have seen thus far.
You use Meta as a great example. Meta, before they went all in on AI, went all in on the metaverse, and there was a big pullback on some of that investment. Yes. Do you need to be sitting on billions or trillions of dollars in cash to excel in AI in the next 5 years?
Well, I think DeepSeek just taught us that the answer is less than people thought. You don't need as much cash as we once thought. I don't know if the number is right, 6 million. It's unbelievable. It's a tenth or less. Now, many people don't believe that, but again, it fits in with the costs collapsing thesis. They were collapsing anyway. DeepSeek has just stepped it up a notch.
Kathy, you mentioned earlier that you're increasingly looking at China. I'm interested in what that looks like, but also how much you think that the US tech companies are going to engage with this, or US businesses will engage with this new technology, DeepSeek, coming as it does out of China. Given everything we've heard about TikTok and where your data ends up, that might raise some flags for some people.
You know, it's very interesting. We've been thinking about President Trump, or many people have been thinking that, oh, wow, this is very negative for China and U.S. Relationship with China. But there is another point in history that might be repeating to some extent here. It's called Nixon in China. Nixon did not trust China. He and everybody trusted Nixon because he did not trust China, and they knew he wouldn't lead us astray. I think the same thing is happening here with President Trump. And from a technology point of view, I think he likes the competition, and he actually did say, I believe yesterday, that, you know, this just shows that even in the U.S., regulations, especially that executive order on AI, which he rescinded, probably has held us back. And now, let's go.
Kathy, you talked a moment ago about the Great Depression and the concentration we saw going into the Great Depression and the number of single stocks. Do you think we get a smooth transition from that concentration to the broadening out of the market? That's not what the Great Depression taught us. It taught us that you get a collapse, and US consumer confidence and so many other things seem to be hinged on this stock market performance. Is it a smooth ride from concentration to diversification? How big a gap could there potentially be between one and the other?
Yes, if you look back at the Depression, I'm not going to get all of these numbers right. What you'll see is the massive concentration took place until 1932. Yeah. At which point the market started broadening out. And small or mid-cap stocks back then way outperformed large-cap stocks. And it makes sense. They had during the Depression, which was binary. Is this company going to survive or not? With output down 30%, GDP down 30%. It is surprising to me that we got to an even greater point of concentration than the Great Depression. It tells you that in an underlying sense, there was a lot of fear in the market, and that investors were piling into cash-rich companies that, oh, by the way, had, you know, called AI. Now I think it's just going to broaden out.
We're looking at a Bitcoin handle of about 103,000. Kathy, bring you into this conversation. You've been a crypto bull for a very long time.
Yes.
You've also, prior to the break, talked a lot about deregulation under Donald Trump in the tech sector, but then also in the crypto sector as well. What has fundamentally changed since he's taken office when it comes to deregulation?
I think we will get significant clarity in terms of regulation. We will get legislation as well. I think many more policymakers in Washington understand that this was a single vote issue for many voters, especially young voters. And so this is becoming much more of a bipartisan issue. And of course, you have the executive branch also supporting it mightily, you know, proposing that we include Bitcoin in Treasury reserves. So you've got, I think we're going to have support of all three branches of government are going to be supportive, which is a big change.
Well, it would be a big change. And I mean, are we really sure of that, I suppose, is the question, because Gary Gensler, the SEC, had a very different view of the risks and the retail investor protections that should be in place when it comes to crypto. There are surely a lot of people who still believe that's important.
Well, I think he didn't understand that this is the next big wave of the Internet. This is the layer of the Internet that developers did not build in the early 90s because no one thought anyone would buy or use financial services on the Internet. I remember back then, no one was going to give their credit card to the Internet, right? This is the next big wave, and it's a huge efficiency move for the financial services sector. So in terms of Bitcoin specifically, it is really the leader in a new asset class. And we have a paper out on that. You can see the low correlations, which do define a new asset class. And it is a global monetary system. It's a very big idea. My professor, mentor, friend, Art Laffer, when he collaborated with us on our Bitcoin paper in 2015, he said, "This is what I've been waiting for since the U.S. closed the gold window in 1971. So he has been energized by this new movement towards a rules-based global monetary system.
Do you think Trump's going to be on board with that? Like, the president has indicated he's quite a big fan of the US dollar, and it sounds like what you're suggesting is a replacement for the US dollar.
No, we actually think that, that these two will coexist, and if anything, what we're seeing with the stablecoin movement, which is how people, is the on-ramp into decentralized financial services. They're all backed by Treasury securities, which de facto they're backed by the dollar. So we think that movement is gaining momentum here, especially now with the deregulation.
You say they're rules-based, but then we see more coins coming all the time. So they might be restricted
from
supply.
the president.
Yeah, from the president and his wife. So you
I
can...
said Bitcoin
Right.
was rules-based.
Okay.
21 million units, and we're nearly at 20 million now. So that scarcity value will continue to support Bitcoin going forward.
Talking about the stable coin kind of being backed by basically by the federal government, why not just use the digital dollar?